Guys, time to take a look at our next lesson. This is going to be on writing equations. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take all of our slope work that we've been doing in the three different forms. We have slope-intercept form, we have point-slope form, and standard form. And at this point in time, those three different forms should be very familiar to you. You should be able to identify them, recognize what they are, know how to find slope from each one of them, how to graph from all three of those. There were two other skills that we did, how to find slope from a line and slope from 2 points. Those two skills are going to be coming into play this week as well too. So we're going to take everything we've been doing, kind of put it all into the same pot, stir it all up again, tie it up with a big bow, and kind of just make some connections between all of the different things. Today we're focusing on two. We're focusing on slope-intercept form and point-slope form and being able to write the equations. So in the previous lessons, you've been handed an equation and having to graph from it. Now you're going to be given information. You're going to be given a slope and given a point. And given a slope and a point, you need to write the equations in both slope-intercept and in point-slope form. So let's begin. The PDF for the notes is on the home page, or you'll be giving it, if you're in class, you'll be given the notes in class. Otherwise, the PDF is online, and just copy it really carefully into your notebooks as carefully as you can. We will be moving on next class, so make sure you have this lesson under your belt today and ready to move on tomorrow. So starting off with given slope M and y-intercept B, we can write slope-intercept form. So we know that this is the slope and this is the y-intercept. So y equals mx plus b is the formula for slope-intercept form. So let's take a look at a couple of different examples. If I move this down, let's look at some examples. So if I have m is 2 and b is 3, I can write y equals 2x plus 3. Just that simple. I just plug in the slope for the coefficient and the y-intercept for the constant. Okay, what happens if there's a fraction for the slope? Doesn't make any difference, same thing. We're still gonna write y equals negative 1/4 x as our coefficient. And if our y-intercept is negative 1, we're gonna write minus 1. So this one's a pretty easy skill to start. What about C? Go ahead and give C and D a try and see if you can come up with it, and then take a look at E as well. Try those on your own, pause the video and try them, and you'll check your work in just a second. All right, make sure you try it. It's really important you do those practices and not just keep watching the video. You do no good for yourself if you don't stop. So we have negative 1. Whoops, sorry, I did that backwards. Let me erase that. So my slope is negative 4, so it's negative 4x. And if the y-intercept is negative 1/2, we just simply say minus 1/2. So easy enough as that. What if the slope is 0 and the y-intercept is 3? We have y equals, there's no slope in it. 0 times x is going to make the x go away, right? And we simply just say y equals 3. Just y equals 3 go in that direction. What about E? Can we have M be undefined and there be a y-intercept? Why is that not possible? Why can't we do that? Or if we have an undefined line, if we're drawing our graph, if we have an undefined line like this, will there be a y-intercept? There won't be, right? It won't ever touch the y-axis. There is no y-intercept, so it's not possible to have it for that particular one. All right, on to the second part of our notes. The graph. Given a graph, we're going to find two things for today. Given the graph, we're going to find the slope and we're going to find the y-intercept. Find those two pieces given this graph. All right, so the slope for this one, let's take a look at my 2 points. If I'm at 4 and I'm at 6. So I find my 2 points. I'm going to start at the left dot. I'm going to go down and then run. So I have my rise over run, my vertical change over horizontal change. And I went down 4 over 6. So down 4 over 6, that means that my slope is negative 2/3. That's negative 2/3. And in my y-intercept, where does the line cross the y-intercept? It crosses it at 4. At 4. So if I have my slope and I have my y-intercept, could I write a slope-intercept formula or equation? I could, right? I could do what I did in the first part of this lesson and plug in the slope for the coefficient and the y-intercept for the constant. Okay, what about B? Try B and C. Try and find a slope. Oh, C doesn't have a slope. What slope is C supposed to have? Take a look at my notes. I think it didn't copy very well. Oh, it doesn't have one on it. Let's see. So let's do B. C will be a little bit trickier. So B, find the y-intercept. It's right there at negative 5. And the x-intercept is at 2. So let's just try those two right there. So we're going to go up 5 over 2. So my slope is going to be 5 halves. And my y-intercept, where does it cross the y-intercept? At -5. So my equation for that would be y equals 5 halves x minus 5 would be my slope-intercept equation, right? For C, let's imagine that it goes this way. Let's imagine it goes that way. So my slope in that case would be 0, and my y-intercept in that case would be 5. So I would say that y equals 5. Where it's going to go there, y equals 5 would be our equation for that one. All right, got those? So sometimes you have to use the graph to find the slope. If you can find the slope, and if you can find the y-intercept, sometimes the y-intercept is not as easy to see as that one. Sometimes it's harder to see, but if you can really clearly tell the y-intercept, then you can write slope-intercept form. All right? Next. Let's flip it now from slope-intercept form to point-slope form. Point-slope form is the one that looks like this. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. This is the one that we called flip-flip. So if you'll recall, if we had something like y minus 3 equals 2 times x plus 4, that's point-slope form. And from point-slope form, we can find the slope. In this case, it would be 2. And we can find a point. It's just a point somewhere on the line. We can find a point where we're going to flip-flip. So the positive 4 becomes negative 4, and then negative 3 becomes positive 3. Remember, they flip places. So the x is written last, but we write it first. And the y is found first, but we write it last. Remember, you're going to flip to sides and flip to sides. So you're going to go flip, flip for both of those. So our point is -4, 3. So we have our slope and we have a point. For today's exercises, you don't need to find the slope and find the point. That's what we did before. Today, we're going to reverse it. You are given the slope and the point. And if you're given the slope and the point, you need to write point-slope form. So in your notes, make sure you write really clearly this template. So this like rubber stamp or this template, this is the thing you're going to write every single time. It's going to have a y, an equals, parentheses, and an x every single time. So now all we have to do is plug it in. Remember, the formula is y equals m. Oops. I left a couple parts out, didn't I? Remember that the formula is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, so that's the formula. So slope, which our slope here is 3. We're just going to put a 3 right there. We just simply write the slope right in front of the parentheses, right where it's going to go. Now our point, remember we have to flip, flip. So our x is 0. It's normally first, but we're going to put it last. And our y is 1. It's normally last, but we're going to write it first. Remember to flip their sides. Put the x in. It literally tells you that the x goes here and the y goes there. Like that's like literally written into the formula. Then we have to figure out the 0. It doesn't matter. It can be plus or minus because it's 0. It doesn't really matter either way. But the 1 was positive. You have to make it negative. So you're going to flip their sides and flip their signs. Flip, flip just like before. So our formula is y minus 1 equals 3 times x plus 0. And really, we can take that one step farther. Make it y minus 1 equals 3x. If we distribute that, we get y minus 1 equals 3x. Okay, so both are correct, just the bottom one is more correct. So then we're going to take it one step further, because our directions say that we need to put this into slope-intercept form. So we've written it in point-slope form. Now, and we simplified it. So now we need to put it into slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is right here, y equals mx plus b. In slope-intercept form, that's where we have y on one side and everything else on the other side. So we're going to keep y and move everything else. So in order to do that, all we have to do is just add 1 to both sides. So we'll get y equals 3x plus 1. And now it went from point-slope form to slope-intercept form. Again, those 3 forms, we're just going to keep moving back and forth. And that was our lesson on Friday. So doing the lesson on Friday has given you a big advantage this week to help prepare for the stuff we're going to be able to do. You've already seen it and heard it once. And all it takes is just that repeated those repeated exposures, seeing and hearing it over and over again, it suddenly starts to make sense. Doesn't make sense the first time you hear it. So go back and rewatch this video. We'll help you with that. All right, let's take a look at a couple other examples. Look at B. Move B up a little bit higher. So I'm given the slope and I'm given the point. So write the template. Okay, write that down because we're going to do that every single time. Now the slope goes right here, -1/2. And the point, we're going to flip. So the 4 is first, we're going to write it last. The -3 is last, we're going to write it first. So the 4 and the 3 go in opposite spots. It literally tells us the y coordinate goes here and the x coordinate goes there. It tells us. Now flip the signs. The 4 was positive, we write negative. The 3 was negative, we write positive. Okay? Now, second step after we write point slope form is we have to change this to slope intercept form. We have to get the y on one side and everything else on the other side. So let's start by cleaning this up. Let's start by distributing that. So let's keep the y plus 3, and we're going to make that equal to -1/2 x. We multiply that together. And now let's multiply -1/2 times -4. -1/2 times -4. That's going to give me +4 over 2, which is 2. So this will become +2 or +2 if I distribute that. If this is still tricky for you, it needs to get fixed. You can do this. Just numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. Okay? Then we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. And we're going to get y equals -1/2 x minus 1. And we've gone from point slope form to slope intercept form. Great, 2 more examples. Try. Or give C a try. Just do that one and then check, then start the video and see if we match. All right, what'd you get for C? Write the template. Plug in the numbers. Slope goes here. This becomes +2. This becomes +1. Because the 2 and the 1 switch spots and they switch sides. They were both negative. They are now positive. The 1 was first, it's last now. The 2 was last, it's now first. So that's point slope form. Now solve it, or just change it. We're going to change it into an equivalent equation, making it into -3x minus 3. Then we subtract 2 from both sides. We have y equals -3x minus 5. Point slope form to slope intercept form. They are equivalent. They're definitely the same. But sometimes we want one and sometimes we want the other one. It depends on what we're looking for. Right, try D. D is going to be, write your template. So every single time it's going to be exactly the same. So just write that down. The slope is 0. Slope is 0. And then we're going to have a 0.72. So we're going to have the 2 goes first, the 7 goes last. They were both positive. Now they're both negative. So if we multiply that by 0, it all goes away, right? If the slope is 0, that means if I'm graphing 0, that means that it's going to be a 0 slope is going to be a horizontal line. And where is that going to be? Because this is all going to go away. Then we're going to add 2 to both sides, and we get y equals 2. So this would be a y-intercept of 2 right there. So sometimes that can happen. All right, 2 more. Let's do E and then F. Now we're all set for today. I'm having a hard time erasing all of a sudden. Let's see. There it goes. Try E. All right, so E, let's write our formula. What do you think? It says M is undefined. Uh-oh. If M is undefined, remember that when we graph it, it's going to go like this. It's going to be vertical. It's not going to have a y-intercept at all. So it's simply going to be x equals, if I have a point -1,5, where is that going to cross? -1,5, it's -1,5. That's going to be here. So that x value is going to cross at -1. So it's going to be x equals -1. That was definitely a tricky one, right? So if it's undefined, it's x equals something. It'll equal wherever the x value is. Whatever the x value is, that's what you're going to put right there. All right, that was definitely a tricky one. All right, last one. Give it a try. What did you come up with for this one? Y equals, oops, not y equals. Y equals, all right, plug in the formula. Slope goes here. The point, you're going to flip, flip. Put the 4 and the 2 on opposite sides. Make them both negative. All right, we have point slope form. Now it's changing to slope intercept form. We're going to multiply across. So we get y minus 4 equals negative 1/3 x. How are we going to do with that? Multiply negative 1/3 times negative 2. Numerator times numerator gives us 2. Denominator times denominator gives us 3. So we're going to get 2/3. So it's plus 2/3. Uh-oh, 2 fractions. We got this. We got this. We're not afraid of our fractions. Now we have to add 4 to both sides. So we get y equals negative 1/3 x. 4 plus 2/3 is 4 2/3. You can just leave it just like that. It would be fine. Or in that case, that could be a decimal or an improper fraction. Any one of the 3 forms would be just fine. All right, there's your notes for today. Go give the homework a try.